Hello, everybody. Welcome to our GMAT Success Talks. My name is Selby, and we have Sreekar Madala here joining us today with a GMAT 745 score. So, congratulations, Sreekar. Amazing score. Before we go and dive into your whole GMAT prep journey, guys, it's Christmas tomorrow. I hope you guys have an amazing Christmas day and amazing New Year's after that. Just FYI, if you're prepping for GMAT at the moment, GMAT club tests are free all day tomorrow. So make sure you make a huge use of that. But other than that, Shrikar, thank you so much for doing this. Let's just quickly start with a quick intro. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and why did you want to start preparing for the GMAT?
For sure. Thank you so much for having me here, Selvi. Hi, everybody. My name is Sreekar. I'm a 2022 graduate from College of Engineering, Pune. I have been working in procurement consulting since graduating. So I have more than 2.5 years of experience in procurement and management consulting. So I've had a long and tiring tryst with management entrance examinations. So GMAT was a sensible next step for me because I started off with a few entrance examinations that were only Indian based, and then since as I got more and more work experience, my goals started getting more and more clearer, and it just made more sense for me to give the GMAT. So yeah, that's why I decided to give the GMAT.
Awesome. And which tests did you take? You said you took some Indian-based ones. What were
Yes,
they?
so I've taken the CAT, which is the Common Entrance Examination for the IIMs in India and a few more colleges as well. And I have
Hmm.
taken the SAT, which is the XLRI Entrance Examination.
Oh, I see. So, mind telling us how your cat was? I mean, since it's for business school as well.
Right, right. So my CAT, I've taken it multiple times. My all times I got a 90 plus percentile, and my strong point there was verbal.
Okay.
And ironically, I was not doing as well in quant in the CAT, but which is one of the major reasons why I decided to focus on the GMAT, given that the quant that's tested in the GMAT is a bit more. It was playing a bit more to my strengths. So yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. And when did you then start taking, like, start prepping for the GMAT? This year,
So I
when?
decided. So I decided to take the GMAT in March of this year. But that was just I just started researching resources online. I found GMAT Club. One of my college seniors suggested go through GMAT Club, go
Hmm.
through what seniors were suggesting there. So I started doing that. Bought my official guides in April, which is when I started seriously prepping for the GMAT.
So what did you initially start with? You said you joined GMAT Club, but did you just start skimming through questions or you bought the books first? Well, what were your first steps?
So I was not that clear what resources I should be using. So my
Mm-hmm.
first step was I spent about 2 weeks, 3 weeks just going through every possible forum on the GMAT Club just to understand what resources are being suggested, what
Mm-hmm.
experts are suggesting. I was also looking at classes as an option,
Okay.
but I decided against that eventually because the timing of most of the prep classes was not matching. And
Mm-hmm.
another part was a few of the providers, they had a self prep option
Yeah.
where they provide you videos. You just have to go through them when you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that historically I have done better with a structured plan, and the
Mm-hmm.
structured plan options were not matching with my time constraints. I was working nights, so my I was working from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. Indian Standard Time,
Oh, interesting.
which yeah, so it was a problem for me.
Okay.
So I just decided to buy the official guides because a lot of the experts were saying that's gold.
Mm-hmm.
They're GMAT questions. Each question. So I read somewhere that each question they spend like hundreds of dollars to develop one single question, and to have all of those in one single area, that was again it's gold. So I decided to use that, and I created a structured plan for myself.
Did you buy all the books or
I bought
just
all
the?
of them.
Oh, all of them. Okay. Awesome. But as I'm sure there are a lot of Indian applicants who must have thought of which to take, the CAT or the GMAT, and like what are the differences. So what were the key differences you noticed when you started prepping for the GMAT?
Right. So I knew of the GMAT as an examination in 2020 when
Mm-hmm.
that was during my bachelor's when I decided that, okay, I will eventually go for an MBA. The main reason behind me not deciding to take the GMAT then was because my work experience was zero.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make much sense for me at that point because the GMAT is mainly for either in India, it's for colleges that have a minimum work experience criteria, or abroad, the criteria is much more than Indian colleges. So I decided that, okay, GMAT is definitely an option for me, but I wanted to try my hand at the CAT as well because I think India is the only country that offers an MBA program to freshers and MBA programs of really high caliber. So that was something I wanted to try my hand at. The main difference between CAT and GMAT, I think, is number one, what geography you see yourself in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that also it's not the main concern because a lot of good colleges in India accept the GMAT, ISB, SPJIMR, and a lot more good colleges accept. Yeah, they accept the GMAT. Uh, so I think the number of colleges accepting CAT are much more in India, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I wanted to take the examination. In terms of content structure, they aren't that different. Both are reasoning based examinations. Uh, in terms of difficulty, I found verbal to be a lot more difficult in the GMAT than CAT, and I found
Mm-hmm.
quant to be a lot less extensive. So the type of questions are really similar, but the number of topics you have to cover is a little lower in the GMAT, which um,
Mm.
allow you to go into a lot more detail in the topics that you have to cover, which is advantageous to any aspirant.
Do you
DI
feel
is entirely different.
it's a little easier for you, or?
So for me personally, yes, quant I found GMAT to be a little easier, but that I don't think that's the case for everyone. For me, because I'm more comfortable when I go into a lot more detail in a few topics as compared to a lot of topics. So that's just how I function. But it's not
Mhm.
necessarily the same for everyone.
Understood, understood. Awesome. You were saying something about data insights. Sorry, I cut you off right there.
Yeah, so data insights a lot. It's almost entirely different in the GMAT and the CAT. So the CAT is a lot more. It's not that data heavy, whereas
Mm,
in GMAT it's very data heavy. So you'll have to have a good understanding of charts, of statistics,
yeah,
whereas in CAT that's not the case. It's more a puzzle based approach.
understood. You've never taken the classic version of the GMAT, right? You
I
started.
have. I've
Okay, you
taken the
have.
classic. Yes, I
Oh,
took the classic version once. Sorry.
you've taken the official exam or just the mocks?
No, I've taken the official exam once.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
So I scored a 700 in the official version of the classic GMAT. That was again after my first attempt of CAT, and I was trying to give as many exams as possible just to understand where my strengths are best uh, applied. So
Mm-hmm.
I am clearly way more comfortable with the Focus Edition than the classic version.
Really?
Uh, yeah, so I mean, my scores are a clear
Of course.
indication of that. Yeah, so the main difference between the classic version and the Focus Edition, I feel, is the removal of sentence correction. That's the only difference that I noticed. That was something I was struggling with. That's something that I feel that gave an edge to native English speakers as compared to maybe an Indian applicant. But with the removal of that, the exam has become entirely reasoning based, and I think that's the main reasoning behind its removal. So the
Mm.
focus, I feel, is
Why continue taking the focus when you already got a good score in the classic? Or I feel it was a good score.
so. I mean, a lot of uh, GMAT club experts have also said that, okay, this is a good enough score for top level programs. The main reasoning behind it was, so it in 2024 my validity for the GMAT, the classic version, was already 2 years. I gave it in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not want to I mean, I was not really too sure whether or not that's an insight, or that's something that admission committees look into. But also, as I started getting more and more clear with the GMAT Focus Edition, I started realizing that I can perform way more better in terms, purely in terms of percentile, because this examination is something that I can play to my strengths to better. So I decided I might as well just give it a shot.
Awesome. Okay, so you said that you started your prep seriously in April of this year.
Correct.
So other than the official mocks, what other resources you tapped into?
So my main source of questions was the official mocks and the OGs, all four books, and
Mm-hmm.
the online banks for all four. Other than that, I used 15 experts global mocks. I gave all 15 examinations, and yeah, those were all the resources that I used. Nothing else.
And any other books you used for your preparation?
Yes, so I used the advanced book. It is not Focus Edition specific, but I was only doing questions that might come up in the Focus Edition. And I
Okay.
also used the Critical Reasoning Bible by Aristotle and the Reading Comprehension Bible by Aristotle as well.
Oh, why did you select these other books? I mean, of course, the OGs are gold, but why the Power Score?
So I wanted to get a basic theoretical base in place for both the reading comprehension and the critical reasoning part of it. That was
Mm-hmm.
something I felt was a bit lacking. I didn't really, I mean, the only exposure I had to both critical reasoning and reading comprehension, which is now the only two parts of the verbal part of the GMAT, was questions. That's all I did. I didn't have a theoretical base in place. And since I was self prepping, I thought that that's something that's important to get in place before I start attempting questions. I basically didn't want to waste any of the official guide questions without having a base in place. It should not. I didn't want to go to the explanation and say that, oh, this is a common theme asked in the GMAT, and this is something you
Mm-hmm.
should already know. So just to get that base in place, I decided to use the Aristotle guides, and both books are really good.
Awesome. And you said quant was much easier for you, right, in the GMAT focus. So I'm sure you
Correct.
didn't prep that much for quant, but were the other two sections really a struggle for you when it came to preparation?
So data insights was a struggle for me when it came to preparation, because I didn't really attempt any questions like the ones that are asked in data insights for a really long time. So
Mhm.
there were times when I did a question in the morning, I got it wrong. I did it again in the evening, and I got it wrong again. So I was definitely struggling with data insights. That was my main point of concern. So for data insights, what I did was I went through the entire official guide, both the physical copy and the online question bank once. I got a lot of questions wrong, especially the medium and hard ones. Easier
Mhm.
ones I was still comfortable with, but when it came to medium and hard, I was getting them wrong, mainly because, so one thing that I was doing right off the start when I started prepping was I was prepping with a timer. I was sure that I will end up facing time issues if I take my sweet time. So I used to give myself a time limit for each question, and
Mhm.
I was getting those questions wrong. So what I did was I did all questions twice, just so that I'm comfortable with the type of questions that are being asked in data insights, so that I get a very good understanding of what uh, possibly be thrown my way. So I did that, and uh, only after doing that did I go to mocks, and I was comfortable with data insights and verbal as well in mocks. But I was underperforming in quant during my mocks, mainly maybe because I didn't pay much attention during my prep.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
I only did questions, right? That's I was not even using a timer as much as I was for the other two sections, because I think I took it too lightly. So
Mm,
during each stage of my preparation, I got a shock. So first stage, data insight shocked me. During mocks, my quant shocked me. So I started paying more attention on when I was giving mocks.
I think there was like an issue with balance, maybe. You're
Correct.
putting too much energy in one place, but like the other one was lacking. So like that there was a lot
Exactly.
of mismanagement. Before I continue, guys, I can see you're watching this live. Feel free to also drop in your questions in the comment section and like this video and subscribe to our channel if you have not. Don't worry, even once the live is over, you can still ask your questions in the comments and we'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. Okay, one thing, okay, so you said that you were noticing different types of shocks in between your mock prep. I actually want to know how your day-to-day like schedule was like, since you said you worked from 2 p.m. till 11. So how much time did you dedicate specifically for GMAT prep, and for how long did you prep?
So typically, I used to prep for GMAT in the mornings before
Mm-hmm,
lunch. Before I logged into work, I made sure to get in at least 2 to 3 hours.
mm-hmm.
Initially, I used to spend 1 hour on verbal and 1 hour on data insights, and then during the last part of my morning, I used to just do questions from quant, maybe 30 minutes or 35 minutes. I didn't pay that much attention. Uh, so I think I did this on and off for about 2 months, which is again something I wouldn't suggest, because when the off periods came, they were really long. There were days that I spent 4 days, 5 days just busy with work or focusing on something else where I didn't really touch anything. And as soon as I came back to preparation, I could feel that, oh, okay, I've almost forgotten everything that I've done so far. So I think, yeah, consistency is a really, really big, it plays a really big part in the GMAT. And I consistently spent 2 to 3 hours in the morning for during the last 1 month of my prep. I used
Mm.
to spend a bit more than that on weekends, but yeah, that was it.
And like when you say you would solve questions for each section, like would you do it with the GMAT Club timer, or you would manually time yourself and solve in the OG? Like how would you do that?
When I was doing the OG, I used to manually time myself
Hmm.
just to see how much time I'm spending. In quant, I kept a timer, so 1.5 minute per question was the timer that I kept. In the other sections, I used a stopwatch just to see how much time I'm spending on each question. This was
Understood.
manual. Yeah, but on for the online question bank, they tell you how much time you're spending, so that was really easy.
Understood. And it's really interesting. So you didn't really use any course throughout your prep. You literally just went through the OGs and a few other books. That's all. Like
Correct.
how does one do that? Because I think you also require a lot of self-discipline, right? Like timing yourself, making sure you go back to all of the questions you did wrong. Like did you maintain your own error log, or you again used one which is like from GMAT Club, for example?
I use the format that I found on GMAT Club.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really useful format. So I use that format. But so the physical copy, I had no other way to maintain it other than like doing it myself. So I maintained a physical Excel sheet, which I was filling in at the end of each session. So I used to note down the questions I got wrong, why I got them wrong, whether or not I need to revisit it at some point down the line, or was it just a silly mistake, so that I don't waste time down the line. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing that. I think for the online question bank, it was maintaining an analog for me. It used to. So what I used to do was maintain. I used to create sessions for myself. It gives you the option in the official website there. And during the end of each session, it gives you what questions you got wrong, how much time you spent on each of those, and it gives you the option to reattempt those. So I kept all of those questions that I got wrong after I solved each question, all the questions that were in the online question bank. So I attempted the wrong questions once again.
Interesting. Wait, and sorry, how many months did you take to give your first attempt?
So I spent 2.5 months in the preparation stage, and then I spent another month and 10 days giving mocks. So about 3.5 months total.
3.5 months. And this was your only focus attempt, right?
Yeah,
Which
my only focus attempt.
interesting. When you start your prep, you of course like I'm just going back, trying to recap. Uh, For verbal, you said you used a few books. For data insights, you just stick to the questions. But when it came to your mocks, when you gave your first mock, how much did you score? Do you even remember?
I do. So the first mock that I gave was the official mock one. I scored a 705 there. But
Okay.
so yeah, one thing I'd like to focus on is those scores don't really matter, because I've scored a 615 in a mock and I've scored a 725 in a mock as well. My highest score in a mock was 725. I don't think I scored higher than that, but I ended up scoring more than that in the official examination. So, which is why I don't think mock scores matter. I think the main thing you need to get out of a mock is what are you getting wrong? Why are you getting that wrong? And you need to make sure you won't get the same, or you won't get the same question, but if you get a similar type of question in the official examination, you need to be sure that you're not going to get it wrong there. That's the only thing that I was focusing
Interesting. I mean, because a lot of people put emphasis, oh my God, I scored like a 625 this time. Like, what am I gonna do next? And you give a lot of mocks. Like, how many
on. Yeah.
mocks in total do you give?
So 24 marks in total.
Whew, 20. And how did you manage? Like, was it like two weekly, three weekly?
I started with giving a mock a week. I did this for the first four official mocks that I gave. But
Mm-hmm.
then I already booked my exam when I started giving mocks, and it was like 40 days away. I didn't have much time left because I spent uh, a lot of time in those first three, four mocks. And then it was a time crunch for me. So I had to give a mock a day towards the end. And I wouldn't suggest anybody do that. But yeah, I was giving a mock a day.
How does okay, how does one actually do that? Don't you get like brain fried or something
I
in the
did,
end?
I did. But then, so I had to prepare myself. So I knew that, okay, I've purchased these mocks. I need to give all of them just to be sure that I wanted to give my best foot forward. So I wanted to make sure that there's no stone unturned. So I used to wake up, give a mock, go to sleep again, wake up and do my work. And then towards the end of the day, I used to analyze what I got wrong, why I got it wrong. And yeah, basic analysis. And then I used to do that
That's
for that.
actually not a bad approach. I feel like doing it every day, especially before your exam day, you're kind of preparing yourself for like the big thing. And once you sit for your exam, I feel like the anxiety is not as much as it should be because you've been doing it already for so many days. Like how many days did you say you were continuously doing it for?
So at
Like,
least, yeah, so 18 days I gave, so I had like 3 days in between. I didn't give any mock, but the other 15 days I was giving a mock a day.
oof, goodness. I think I would go mad trying to give that many every day. Or I mean, it's not just that you have to also be in a very quiet environment and like no one should bother you at that time. It's very difficult, especially for working people.
Yeah.
But okay, that's awesome. Other than that, one thing I think we have to touch upon just a little bit are oh gosh, I let me check. I was supposed to ask something. Oh yes, when it comes to your mocks, also how were you analyzing your like results? Was there any like approach? You said you just checked whatever you got wrong and like made sure you focused on those weak areas, but did you do it to the point that you were not weak in anything, or was that not the case?
That was definitely not the case. So what I was doing was I was taking a look at all questions again.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I got right, I was checking if the approach on GMAT Club, what the experts are providing as an explanation to those questions, is that right or not? And the approach that I have is that similar? Or
Mm-hmm.
the reason I was doing that, especially in quant, is because sometimes there is an easier, shorter method that exists, and you might be using a longer one. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't wasting any time, so I was doing that for each. I was looking at each and every question again in quant, not only the ones I got wrong. I was doing something similar for verbal and DI as well, but that's so verbal is it's more about reasoning, right? It's a bit open to interpretation. Maybe what you thought as the correct reason, it might or might not match with what's given as an explanation on GMAT Club by experts. But if it is, then well and good. If not, then you need to have their explanation in your arsenal as well, just so that you have every possible stream of thought when you're approaching any question.
Correct.
Especially when it comes to critical reasoning. That's really important. So yeah, that's
Mm,
what I used to do. I used to go through each and every question and their explanations on GMAT Club.
interesting. And when it came to section order, were you always sticking to a particular one during your mock test, or you were trying to change things up?
So the first three mocks I gave, I changed the order. I gave all three possible orders. But then I realized that I was most comfortable with giving quant first, followed by verbal, and then a break, and then DI. So yeah, that's what I stuck to for the last 21 mocks.
Is it because like you also like I don't know if it's exactly true or not, and I should check, but a lot of people, at least who I've debriefed, have said that the test is section adaptive as well. Not sure if you're aware of that, but is was that the reason why you stick to quant? Maybe because you're really good at quant and you thought the rest would be easier, or just randomly you decided?
So I felt the test was section adaptive for sure, because so the first question I gave on quant, it was something that I was really comfortable with. I did not
Mm,
have any issues at all, and I could gradually feel the difficulty level increasing in quant. But when I attempted verbal, the first question that came up there was a critical reasoning question, and I felt that okay, this is definitely not an easy question. So I haven't started afresh. It's keeping in mind my performance in the previous section. That's a confidence booster for sure, because if it's a medium to hard question, you're okay. I did well in the last section.
correct.
So I mean, again, it could be random. So don't take my word for it. If you're getting an easy question, don't panic and say, "Oh, maybe I'm not doing well." That's not the case for sure. But yeah, I read that it's a section adaptive examination. So I somewhere or another I kept it in my mind that okay, I need to do well in my strongest section, which is quant, just to make sure that my overall score is at the highest possible.
Understood. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of people here, guys. Again, make sure to like this video so that it reaches a larger audience and it helps them with their GMAT prep. And FYI, tomorrow, Christmas, due to Christmas, GMAT club tests are free entirely with the PST time zone, FYI. But yeah, one thing I actually is interesting. A lot of people, when they prepare for the GMAT, what they do is they don't take as many mocks as you do. They typically save a little bit because just in case if they don't get the score they want, they plan on retaking the test and having mocks set aside for that. So what were you also thinking that could be a possibility, or you were like, no, this is it. I'm doing this once, no more.
It's a bit of both. So I think during my initial mock attempts, I had not purchased the expert global mocks yet. So my thought process was I'll give the official mocks, I'll give them all of them twice. They give reattempts. So that will be more than enough, 12 mocks. And if I don't get the score that I want, the one of the advantages of the GMAT, again, we were talking about GMAT versus CAT, and I think one of the biggest advantages of the GMAT is multiple attempts during a year, and also the timeline between two attempts is not that long. It's like 16
Correct.
or 17 days, if I'm not wrong. So that was really, I wanted to make sure that I utilize that as well. But then when I gave the first few mocks, I realized, okay, I'm hitting the score that I want in the mock tests. The prep that I have in place now is enough for, at least the theoretical prep I have in place is enough for the score that I want. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to think about a second attempt because I
Hmm.
can do well in this one. So why even think of that as a possibility? Why keep that as an option? So I went all out in this attempt.
And that's a good approach, but sometimes it also bites you in the ass later on,
Exactly.
especially for students who manage to not get the score they want. Well, no, that's
Yeah.
really awesome. I don't know if we dive deep into the data insights because someone did here ask like what your approach was. So was there anything else other than attempting the official questions, at least for that section?
No, so all I did was do the official questions, all of them twice. And I after doing that, I used to find a little bit time here and there, like during I hope my employer is not looking at this. During off times, during lunchtime, I used to quickly open GMAT Club and just go through random questions I could find there. So GMAT Club has these directories for quant, for verbal, for data insights as well. I used to just randomly select questions based on the difficulty level I wanted to attempt, and just attempt a random question here and there and
Mm-hmm.
analyze it if I got it right, why I got it right, why I got it wrong. So the that was the only thing that I did. But so if you're it worked for me because I was good with statistical concepts. So percentages, mean, median, mode, that was not something that I had to theoretically understand. I already knew what they were. But if that's something you're facing an issue with, I think there are a lot of resources on GMAT Club. You can go on to the data insights directory there. You'll
Yeah.
find a lot of resources which are so cheat sheets and useful tricks and tips. You can find them there.
Awesome. When was your first attempt, or I mean, when was your only GMAT focus attempt? When did you take the test?
So I took it in July, 23rd of July of this year.
23rd of July. Okay. How was that process like? Did you finalize the date many months prior or many days prior? Sometimes people book the date way before. What was your strategy?
I finished my preparation. I got it in place, and by the time I did that, the date that I wanted to give, which was the 23rd, it wasn't available. So I kind of panicked because the only dates available were towards the end of August, and I was scared that okay, how will I uh, plan my mocks, because according to the plan that I had in place, my mocks were getting over, and I didn't want there to be a huge gap between my last mock and my examination because I didn't want to cool down. So what I did was I noticed that there are so if you look at the portal a few days in prior, you can see that there are cancellations towards the date that you want. So when I checked, I used to open the portal every day in the morning just to see is the 15th to the 25th of July, is it empty? Is there an option for me to give it? And luckily one day I think a month prior to the 23rd, I found that there was some cancellation for the center that I wanted to attempt, and yeah, I booked it as soon as I could.
Awesome. And this center, it's in where exactly? Where
And
did you take? In Mumbai.
so I took the Pearson Center in Andheri. I had the 8 a.m. slot.
Okay. How was the test center experience? What time did you take your test?
So I took the test at 8 a.m. The test center experience was seamless for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guidelines that were provided as soon as I booked the test, it was exactly how they had explained it online. So you are advised to get to the center. So mine was 8 a.m. They advised me to get there at about 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of panicked a bit. My cab was stuck in traffic for a really long time. I reached the center at 7:12, and since it was the first slot of the day, they hadn't opened the center yet. So as soon as I saw that okay, a bunch of candidates are waiting outside, I calmed down. So um, the center was really good. The overall experience is also really good. So one thing, right? The on screen calculator that's there in the examination, that's there in the portals, is a bit different. So the experts global calculator is really good, whereas the
Mm-hmm.
test calculator, it's a bit slow to open up, a bit tougher to use. And since it's so when I was giving it on my laptop, I didn't use a keyboard, so I didn't really have to face that issue of okay, typing each thing and looking at onto my screen whether or not it's typed as I wanted it to be typed or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I would suggest you to either not use altogether, because if you are good with quick calculations, do that. Don't rely on the on-screen calculator. If not, then uh, you should mentally prepare for the calculator to be a bit slow.
Interesting. Okay. Was there anything else that you noticed a little different than your mock
Well,
experience?
a lot of this is something I prepared for. A lot of the debriefs were mentioning that don't use pen and paper at home because you're not going to get that there. It's going to be a laminated sheet, and you're going to be using a marker. I didn't buy a laminated sheet, and I didn't use a marker during my mocks because I was mentally prepared for that. I knew that okay, this is not going to be it's not going to be as comfortable there. So
Mm-hmm.
I made sure that I'm not going to let that throw me off. So yeah, again, that's something you can, if you want to, you can use it during your mocks. It'll be a good preparation. But if not, then just be mentally prepared and it'll be okay.
Understood. What was the final order of the sections? It was quant, verbal, and then DI, correct?
Yeah, quant
And did you
verbal, a
take
5 minute break, and yeah.
any breaks you took in between?
So after the verbal section, I took so it's a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
At home, I was doing it cut to cut, so I was utilizing 8 minutes, and then I came back, sat down, calmed myself down, and gave the DI sections for my mocks. That's not going to be the case during your attempt. You're going to have to ask the coordinator there to come and log you out of your system. She's going to, or they're going to take your thumbprint, your biometrics. You're going to go out, you're going to do whatever you have to, and then you're going to come back, give your biometrics again, and then sit for the examination. So the
Oh, no.
entire process takes about 3-4 minutes. So don't use the 10 minutes during your mocks. Don't get used to that. If you can, make sure that you only take a 5-minute break in total, which is what
Mhm.
I ended up doing during the examination. I just went out quickly, took one quick lap of the center, came back, and I had about 4 minutes left when I sat for my yeah, the next section.
And regarding the questions that you got, I'm not sure if you remember what all was there, of course. Anything that stood out, or questions that you're like, okay, maybe I should have prepared better for this section.
So nothing stood out as such because I think the number of mocks that I gave it, that's the only thing it did. It prepared me for all types of questions. But during when I was giving my mocks, there were quite a few times when I faced questions in probability and PNC that I felt, okay, this is something that I haven't seen, especially during my expert global mocks. I felt that this is a harder question. This isn't
Mhm.
something that I've seen in the official guides or in the official mocks, which again is a good. It's something that is going to help you. Giving the more mocks you give, the more prepared you'll be for anything that a GMAT can throw towards you. So I think that worked out.
And were the advanced questions that you tried out, were they very helpful for your prep?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So the advanced questions that I did, they, especially if your target score is high,
Mm-hmm.
you need to make sure that you're comfortable with those tougher advanced questions, and the advanced book only has those. So where again, that's a good point. So the advanced questions are a bit more different than the official guide questions. So those questions, how to attempt them, the quickest way possible to solve those, that's something that it's good to have in your arsenal. So I made sure to remember all question types there.
How did it feel in the end to see the score pop up 745? Were you happy or were you disappointed? Like, oh shoot, I could have gotten more.
So the first instinct I had was happiness, and adrenaline was at an all-time high. And so funny story there. As the score popped up, right? I did not. I saw 745 and I clicked next. I didn't see my sectional breakdown there because I was that excited at that point of time. Like, okay. And then everything after that was a bit of a blur until I sat in the cab and I realized what's my sectional score, and I didn't know the answer to that. And I kind of was like, okay, I did not plan that out correctly, but it worked out well because they gave me my score in a few hours. The official score came to me the early morning the next day. So I
Mm-hmm.
saw my sectional breakdown then, and yeah, it was excitement. And then when I saw that I got one question wrong in quant, I really regretted it. I'm like, okay, I could have gotten that right, but I it shows you which question number also you got wrong at when you get your official report. So I knew which question I got wrong, and I regretted it a lot. But yeah, I think all in all, I was satisfied.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you planning to again reattempt this exam, or are you finding?
I think a lot of aspirants will kind of be pissed off at me if I say I'm going for another attempt. They'll be like, okay, why are you
Yes,
doing that?
even I would. Stop.
So no attempts for a reattempt now.
No more new exams, I hope, because how many more can one take? Like, I'm just shocked. Like, how did you manage? I think I would lose my mind, like attempting so many mocks and so many tests. Like, really, you have. I feel like you have this mental stamina for all of this. Like, kudos to you. But this just shows how incredibly smart you are and how awesome you are. The fact that you managed to get this score just with the official guides is amazing. Not a lot of people manage to do that. So, congratulations once again. I hope I've not missed out on anything, but if there is any advice you have for our YouTube audience.
So I think my main point, so I'll break it down into two. Number one, consistency is the game when it comes to the GMAT. if you're doing your preparation consistently every day, you're paying attention to all sections, you're going to do well irrespective. Mocks are not, they're not going, I mean, one aspect of them is to use it to understand how much you're going to score, but that's not the sole reasoning for it. It's not the main reason for mocks either. So don't take mock scores to heart at all. This is something that I used to do. So as soon as I got a mock score, I started, when it was on the lower end, I used to start panicking, saying, okay, what am I doing? And then I used to go onto GMAT Club, search people who've scored really high, whether or not they got a similar lower score on any mock, and try to understand, oh, what situation were they in. And I've noticed that I've gone through a lot of debriefs, and what I've noticed is people, they generally, people score lower on their mocks than they do in their, as an average score, they score lower on their mocks than they do in the final examination. So don't take
Mhm.
mock scores to heart. The main focus after you attempt a mock is not the score, it's what you've gotten wrong, why have you gotten it wrong, what you've gotten right, and is it the correct approach to get that right. So just focus on both of those and you should be good to go.
Hey, that's some solid advice right there. Awesome, Shrikar. I hope I'm saying it correct. Shrikar,
Sreekar,
Shrikar.
Sreekar, for sure, you're saying it
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I'm stressing the wrong vowel. Sorry for that.
No
This
worries.
is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm hoping that you come back here again, and this time it won't be a GMAT debrief. It will be an MBA business school debrief of you getting into a really good school, which I'm sure you will with such an amazing score. I feel like in your essays, you should write down how many mocks you've taken, because that shows the dedication right there. But thank you so much, and whoever's watching, feel free to again ask your questions in the comments. Either us or Shrikar can respond to your comments after the session ends. And if anyone wants to connect with Shrikar, you can let them know how they can connect with you on which platform. You can tell it right now. And yeah,
So I'll drop my LinkedIn in the comments. You can reach out to me anytime. I'll be sure to reply to as quickly as I possibly can. And yeah, and GMAT Club as well. I'll drop my GMAT Club link. You can reach out to
awesome.
me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much and have an amazing Christmas holiday and New Year's. Okay, bye guys. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.